So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiance Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 8, Episode 15 of 90 Day Fiance. In this episode, Natalie won't keep in touch with anyone on the ranch. Hazel finds her dream stripper. Yara and Jovi get to Vegas. We find out why Amira didn't get on the plane. Stephanie has some parting gifts for Harris. Brandon and Julia move up the wedding, and Rebecca is stressed out about basically everything. If you like what you hear, please support us by subscribing and leaving a 5-star rating. We are also covering Before the 90 Days Season 1 as a classic episode on this channel. This week we'll be covering episodes 1 and 2, and next week we'll cover episodes 3 and 4. You can watch along with us on Hulu or Discovery+. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Spring is here.
Yes, and spring break is almost here.
Spring break is almost here. Although you are having fun on spring break, I am pretty much going to be doing a lot of work over spring break. So, you know,
yes.
We give and take it.
Right. Well, at least I can guarantee internet reception.
Yes, that is true.
Or a connection this time around.
We won't have to work around that. Yeah.
I will not be on a boat this time, but I'm hoping that I won't have too much of a problem accessing the episode outside the country.
Oh, yeah, true. Uh-huh.
All those VPN things get kind of tricky.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about people who were traveling. Well, I guess, yeah, let's start with travelers. People are traveling to fun places. Let's start with Yara and Jovi. So everybody is on the road to Vegas because they confusingly flew to LA and then drove to Vegas.
Stupid. So dumb.
Always like one of the cheapest places you can go. Like it's
exactly. What are
so
you
crazy.
Doing?
Yeah, I don't know why they drove. And not only a car that was like a little sedan where Jovi's sitting in the middle, man spreading all over the back seat. Anyway, Yara is upset because, you know, the wedding, which originally was supposed to be just her and Jovi, now has like a whole bunch of people. Like there's family and cousins and friends and 2 groups of people. And yeah. Yara says that one blessing of her pregnancy is now that she's allowed to just sleep all the time, which lets her ignore Jovi's friends, even though they don't know about the pregnancy. Jovi tells us that the wedding is in 2 days and they have nothing ready. Clothes, rings, anything. So Yara is increasingly upset that he is not taking the wedding itself seriously, as they pull into Peggy Sue's tourist trap diner for a pit stop. A restaurant that, according to Yara, is so old that they actually have dinosaurs there because there was like little metal dinosaurs everywhere. Yara needs some support, so she calls her friend Lyra while Jovi is taking selfies with friends. Lyra isn't there, and Yara leaves a kind of rambling voicemail about not being ready and kind of wanting to go back to Ukraine. Eventually, Jovi does notice that Yara is missing, and, you know, he brings her in for the pictures too. She tells us again that were she not pregnant, she probably would have gone back to Ukraine already. So they finally get to Vegas and drive up and down the strip at night. Jovi is pumped to be there with everyone and has more friends and family coming in tomorrow. Yara is, of course, less pumped. Jovi's friend Sarah asks if they signed a prenup, and Yara jokes like, why would we do that? He has nothing I could take. And they get to the hotel and Jovi has a plan. We're going to change immediately and then meet at the hotel bar. Yara is upset that Jovi just, you know, wants to immediately go out with his friends when they get to Vegas. And Jovi is upset that Yara is not ready to go yet. Can we go down? Anyway, she sits down to talk to him about the whole wedding. She tells him that he's acting more like it's his birthday party than their wedding party. He kind of misses the point and asks, like, well, do you really hate my friends that much?
God.
She continues to try to explain what it is that's making her upset, and he just kind of goes, okay, and uh-huh. Even as she says she's not really feeling good about getting married tomorrow, which kind of seems to finally let it sink in. He asks what he should do, and she basically says that she needs to be his number one concern right now, so he agrees not to hang out with his friends today, and instead they can do something romantic together. Yara feels a little hopeful, but is concerned that they'll have to be married before she can tell if anything has really changed. All right, so down to the questions. So how long is this romantic thing going to last before he's like, so can we go hang out with the friends again? Kaz is texting me.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long are they staying after the actual wedding ceremony? Because I think it's going to last until the wedding ceremony. And then after that, it's going to be like, no, we're celebrating. We're celebrating with my friends and family.
Yeah. Oh, we hung out with you before the wedding. Yeah. Now it's about, totally. I guess he just doesn't get it. Like,
no, he doesn't. Well, I think he does, but he's trying to kind of balance the two things. He's trying to balance what he wants and what she wants. And I think it's really only balancing what she wants so he gets what he wants, right? So if he really wants to get married to her, then he's got to give her enough for him to get what he wants, the marriage. And then once he's got what he wants, screw her.
Yeah, I mean, I get the impression, too, that it is, like, I get the impression that his friends and family are also like, where's Jovi? Like, Jovi usually hangs out all the time. He's usually there. He's usually the guy who's always there. We always depend on him. And now he has to be like, no, guys, actually, I'm not going to be at the bar, which is a big deal not a big deal for him. It's definitely different than what he wants. But I feel like they're kind of I think they may be underplaying how much pressure he's getting from the friends and family to not just, like, go out solo with Yara. Because, he's definitely a guy who has probably gone through a bunch of guy friends who dropped off when they got married.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And so I'm sure that one of his goals in this marriage is to not be that guy.
Yeah, and I get that because I feel that way, like, especially when I was in my later 20s. It's like your girlfriends would get a partner and then all of a sudden you just like never saw them again, and I always vowed that I would not be that friend, and so I would always kind of party too, even though I was like in a relationship, and to the point where sometimes my friends would forget I was in a relationship.
Sure.
I definitely feel like there's a good balance. It worked out that my boyfriend and I both kind of were very social, so it would just be like one night out of the week we would both just hang out with our respective friends, and so I still saw my friends quite a bit, but like there's got to be a balance. There isn't like just two extremes. Like you can only hang out with friends or you can only hang out with your partner. But I also feel like some people can't handle both.
They can't. Well, and I think the biggest deal is here right now is that I think Yara would be okay with that. Like, oh, one day a week, but she doesn't have any friends here. Like she doesn't have anybody else. And so it is really hard, no matter how balanced your relationship is, to be like, okay, well, tonight's the night I'm going to go out and hang out with my friends. You just sit here and watch TV. Like, later.
Yes, that's very difficult. Yeah. I think she could potentially have a pretty good friend in Sarah.
Sure.
Because I think... so Sarah is the wife of one of Jovi's friends, and she's also the one that they had gone out for a pedicure earlier on in the season,
right?
As an attempt to try get Yara some friends. And I think like she kind of has a healthy like, okay, let's poke fun at Jovi, because I know what a douchebag like Jovi's been in the past at least, and I think Sarah is definitely, I feel like, a little bit more critical of that friend group. So I feel like her and Yara are definitely kind of on the same page. So I really feel like her and Sarah potentially could be pretty good friends and allies.
I have very little doubt that Yara can like make friends pretty easily, right? It's just that, it's been such a short amount of time, right? And she doesn't have a car. She can't go out. She can't do anything. And so that's always been her fear of, it hasn't been like Jovi specifically, like with the family at the wedding. It hasn't been, I don't want your family at the wedding. It's been like, I don't want your family at the wedding if my family can't be there. Right. And so it's a similar thing. Like she has this sense of fairness that was like, well, if my people can't be there and I can't hang out with my friends, then maybe you shouldn't either. Yeah. Because like the whole like number one concern thing is a little like, there's a difference between, the number one concern and your only concern. Yeah. And like, and so I don't know which one she's really getting at. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always a balance of how much more are you supposed to be concerned with me than everybody else.
Yeah, I'll tell you my number one concern in this is who in the world planned this trip to Vegas? It took them 12 hours to get there. Because remember, their flight left at like 5:30 in the morning.
Oh,
and by
yeah.
the time they were rolling up on the strip, it was dark again. So that's at least 12 hours.
I mean, well, it depends. I don't know what time of year it was. Do we know what time of year it was? It was warm out, right? So it had to be like getting darker later. It had to be like during daylight savings time, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But okay, 12 hours on the conservative side, 12 plus hours if it's getting darker later.
I mean, okay, so for a flight from New Orleans to LAX is what, like 4.5? Because it's farther west than I.
Oh, that's ridiculous. And Las Vegas is shorter distance, so it probably would have been, at least 3.5 hours.
They could have like pointed to Vegas as they flew past it and then got in a car and drove back.
Honestly, they should have just taken a cheap flight from LA to Vegas too, if that was kind of a concern. Because I was going to say, flights to Vegas from LA are probably about 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, to drive out there, it's like a good 5 hours, especially like depending on time of day, and day of the week, because there's always traffic getting to the 15, which is what they were on.
The trip to me is a trip I've driven. It's the trip from, LA to Vegas sounds a lot like the trip that I made a whole lot of times to the much less exciting Washington to Raleigh, Durham. It's about the same kind of thing. It's 5 hours if you're good, but like otherwise there's traffic and there's things and there is flights, but like I said, there's usually like Vegas does that on purpose. If you want to fly to Vegas versus say like Salt Lake or Phoenix, which are not that like, equidistant from New Orleans, it's always way cheaper to go to Vegas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, I don't know, LA is farther away. It's so confusing.
Yeah. Who in the world planned that? I was just like, you're fired. They were in an SUV, it looked like.
Did it? Well, I think it was like one of those crossovers that always looks way bigger on the outside than it looks on the inside. They look cramped in the back seat, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, like anything is small once you try to shove 5 people in it.
5 grown people, that's true. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if you get a third bench, like with a minivan, then yeah, that definitely helps. But
yes.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Stephanie and Harris now. So Stephanie and Harris have their last morning together before Harris has to go back to work. Harris decides that he wants to climb a coconut tree to get a coconut for Stephanie. She gives her blessing as long as he can do it safely. They walk hand in hand to the pier, and Stephanie tells us that the sex is great, but she can tell that he is a good person just by looking in his eyes. Harris wants to go to Michigan because he has big dreams. Harris cracks open the coconut on the pier as they both take turns drinking the coconut juice. Stephanie says that it's officially over with her and Ryan, and she will be canceling the visa. Stephanie warns Harris that Michigan is nothing like Belize, and he should imagine it being much more cold and a lot of snow. Stephanie wants him to think about if he really wants to come to America. Stephanie then shows Harris that Ryan reached out at 5 a.m. and Ryan's trying to make amends. Harris says that he isn't lying to her as she pulls up a picture of Harris and his baby mama taken on his birthday just 3 weeks ago, and they very much look like a couple. Harris says it's just a nice picture taken on his birthday. Harris insists that Emma, his baby mama, has moved on and she's moved into her mom's house. Stephanie says they don't look unhappy together, and she thinks that Emma looks like she's in love. Harris tries to talk himself out of the situation, and Stephanie brings up Ryan once again and tells Harris that, she's tired of a lot of lies and deceit. Harris tells her that he loves her. Stephanie softens a little bit and says that it's nice of him to say, and she hugs him and she's smiling the whole time. Harris is packing up to leave, and Stephanie is mothering him, making sure he has food for his tummy and making sure that he hasn't forgotten anything. Stephanie says she wants to give him some money before he goes. So she gets her bejeweled money purse and pulls out a $100 bill and says it's for snacks. Harris wonders if it's real because he's never seen a bill like that before. He then says he's going to buy stuff for the kids because that's 2 weeks worth of wages. After Harris leaves, Stephanie already starts to get paranoid, and she wants to talk to Emma to make sure that Harris isn't lying. Okay, so Do you think that Harris is lying? Are Emma and Harris still together? What's the status of their relationship?
They are definitely not fully divorced, right?
Oh,
How divorced are you? They are not
at
broken
all.
up yet.
I think they might be on step one, thinking about separating. I feel like Emma moving out of the house was, probably like a week ago, coincidentally.
Yes. Yeah.
Harris could have been picking a fight if he knew Stephanie was going to be around. And, if he's picking a fight, trying to get the ball rolling, setting up the plan, then Emma goes to her mom's house. And so now he can kind of start saying like, oh, we're moving on.
We're moving on. She moved on because she moved into her mom's house. Like it might even be. Yeah, they're very much not very far into the process of breaking up. And so like, I don't know. I just feel like he's like, I mean, to the point where I think I don't even know. I think he might be like, hey, yo, I can go hook up with this white woman. She will give me all this money. I'm gonna do this. She might be like, all right, I'll tell her. We'll pretend I'm divorced. We'll let that happen for a little bit.
Oh my goodness. So I thought it was really interesting that Stephanie says, like, oh, I can just tell he's honest by looking into his eyes. Okay, is it just me? Because when I look into his eyes, I think he looks super shady. Like he's lying about stuff and he's scamming.
Yeah, I just see dollar signs when I look at his eyes. That's all I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Just like in a cartoon, like bing, 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 bing. Like he seems so scammy to me.
He does, to me too, even more so than Ryan.
Oh, yeah, definitely more so than Ryan. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm an expert at reading anyone by their eyes, but what I'm trying to say is that why is my perception so much different than your perception?
Very much so. I mean, I'm on board with you. He seems to me as like, oh, Ryan has this lady giving him money and he blew that. My turn for money. Let's go. Right. And he comes in there because the way he comes in there, I love you. Like your wife moved out like not even, we don't know when she moved out, but she's moved on.
It's been 2 days since this woman's been saying, I love you to someone, your cousin.
Yeah, and he's the, oh, I love you. I'm going to do this. I just want to keep you and protect you. He's like, you don't know that, man. Like, no. Like, he's playing, I mean, it seems like he's reading from the script that she wants to hear, but I definitely don't see honesty in his eyes, that's for sure.
And her little mother hen act, too, just also creeps me out.
It was really creepy when it's like, yeah, the sex is great. Also, do you need some snacks for your tummy? Like,
at least Harris seems a little closer to her age. I don't know how old Harris really is because they haven't given him a title card, but he definitely seems older than Ryan.
Yeah. But I don't mean I would say Harris is probably in his 30s, right?
I would think so. He also maybe just, from working outside all the time, maybe his skin just isn't as
well, I mean,
youthful.
he's been with his baby mama for 14 years.
That's true. But they could start young.
But if they started at 16, that makes him 30.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like he's in his 30s for sure. So that puts him closer in age, but it's still weird to me that she is so motherly to these men.
Right. I mean, I think it's also weird that you notice that even Harris refers to her as, that's my baby mama, not my ex.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. You're like, I'm not lying.
Yeah. I didn't say she was my ex.
Yeah.
No.
These are all technicalities.
No. How many purses does this lady have?
How many bejeweled purses does this lady have? Is the better question. If they were different handbags, I could be on board. How many like weird bejeweled boxes does she have that are shaped like things? What? That's a $100 bill shaped like $100 bill. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. Yeah,
and she just like,
was super bizarre.
That $3,000 watch I had laying around, which I am still calling bullshit on. That is not a $3,000 watch. He's like, I just had it laying around, and Ryan forgot to take it, so now it's his. And it's like, you just gave away $3,000 to nobody?
I know.
So he could carry away in a trash bag? So weird.
Yeah, okay, that was my other question. Didn't he walk in there with a suitcase? What happened?
I feel like he did. Didn't he have a wheelie suitcase?
Yeah, he had a rolly suitcase on the way in, and on the way out, it's like, all of a sudden, what happened to that suitcase?
So my question was about, this is, shows me, most of my travel has been to cold places. Do people just do that with coconuts? Just smash them and drink the water and then toss them?
Okay, yes and no. there's stands for that, and like that's a thing.
Right, but I picture them with they've been cut in half, and they have little umbrellas in them, and like you drink the water out of them.
Oh no! People like just knock off the top. Like
Okay.
They're kind of cut so that way they can sit on a table usually.
I mean, I've definitely seen videos of the guys with the machetes like going to town on
Right, and then
coconuts
they'll
stuff.
just cut off the top and like stick a straw in it. Yes, that's like a thing, definitely. But you don't have some guy like climbing up a tree doing it.
Smash, and drinking it. It's like I don't think that's how you usually handle coconuts. I don't know.
I mean, I think so. It's not that odd, but I don't know. The climbing the tree part.
It seemed like
all right.
it seemed like an excessive amount of work to get some coconut water. Just to climb the whole tree and do the whole smashing, and then
I think he was just trying to
he's trying to
impress
show
her
off
with his tree climbing skills.
Oh yeah, he's a big man who can climb a tree. Not anything like a little boy. That's not little boy activity.
Well, she's into that, so who knows?
She is. The mom thing was so weird.
He's trying to play up to his strengths.
All right, so speaking of weird moms, Brandon and Julia. All right, so there is 1 month before the wedding is supposed to happen, but Virginia's COVID lockdown has gone into effect a couple weeks ago, and Julia is just sitting on the bed throwing balls up in the air because, that's our thing for beginning of lockdown. Brandon has been unresponsive to her about planning the wedding, and we, get to recap their female fantasy fight. So a couple of hours later, Betty is giving Ron a very amateur haircut without her glasses on. Apparently she has lots of experience grooming dogs, but this is not going quite as well. She had long hair and she just cut a little hole around his ears. It ended up looking better when they were in the interview, but during the haircut it was looking rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so while he's getting his haircut, Ron asks Brandon if they've been discussing their plans moving forward, because he seems that Brandon doesn't seem all that invested or excited about what's going on. And Betty is asks him how he feels. She's like, well, you never show us how you feel. You're always mute. You're always blah. And he recaps the situation, but he does eventually say that he doesn't want it. He has this weird way of framing it where he always says, well, I can either do nothing, or we can either go back to thing, or I could give up on Julia, or wait, I'm not ready to give up on Julia. It's not really a positive thing. I want to get married as much as I'm not ready to break up yet. Anyway, but he does say that he's rushed into this. And apparently Betty and Ron are taking the lead with the wedding planning now because they want to have a talk with Brandon and Julia. They're stressed out about what would happen, if somebody in the meantime before their wedding got COVID and they'd had to quarantine. And then you wouldn't be able to have the ceremony because they'd be in quarantine. So maybe they should just get married as soon as possible. Both of them agree, Brandon and Julia, but things get sticky when the idea of what kind of ceremony they're going to have comes up. Julia, it's weird because they bounce back and forth a bunch of times. Because right at this point, Julia says, whatever, we'll just sign the paper. And then I'll get my visa. But then Betty says, no, there has to be a ceremony too. So let's do something on the farm. Brandon says, okay, well, maybe we'll do something on the farm next week. And Betty's like, you don't have that long. How about 2 days? And they both just kind of say, all right, whatever, let's just do this thing. And let's just get this finished so Julia can get her visa. But then later on, Betty comes into their room that they're in together with good news. The minister is available in 2 days and they can do the ceremony then. Julia doesn't have a dress or anything, and now they're worried about putting the thing together. Betty at least recognizes that her wedding dress is not going to work for Julia with its high neck and puffy sleeves. But then Brandon kind of pumps up and is like, well, this ceremony doesn't really have to be much. We're going to have a big ceremony later, which seems to have been what Julia said earlier, but now it's a fight. Now, Betty and Julia are not okay with that. Betty leaves as this fight starts, and Julia speaks her concerns. But it seems like at this point, what she's mostly concerned about is that, Brandon is going to say, we'll have a big wedding later, and she's pretty sure that that's never going to materialize. So then they get into another fight about how Brandon doesn't care about anything, including the wedding, to the point where Julia's like, well, why don't you go ask your mom what you care about? Because that's apparently how you figure it out. He's trying to say something along the lines of, well, the wedding isn't important. It's the relationship. It's the marriage that's important. But I feel like all she heard about that was, I don't care about the wedding. So I don't know. It seems like, I feel like he kind of got jerked around on this one, because I feel like he was trying to do like he always does and parrot, this is what I heard you say you wanted, and then it kind of backfired on him. So, I mean, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think he wants?
I think he just wants her to live there forever without actually having to do anything different. But, you know, I agree with Julia that because Brandon is kind of like the path of least resistance,
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like he just doesn't want any change. He just likes things how they are. You know, he doesn't want to rock the boat. He doesn't want to go out and do anything. Oh, what? I have to do something. I have to put an effort into something. I get that it's a legitimate concern of hers that, you know, if they just get to this point where they're actually on paper married, that he'll just be like, okay, we're done. Like, and she wouldn't get a ceremony. She's absolutely right. And so I feel like he just needs to do something. Like, this is like his best case scenario. I don't know why he's being such a pain in the ass about it. Like, he didn't want to make it into this big thing of like all these little details that he doesn't care about. Now you're being forced to do this thing in 2 days.
You only have to suck it up and deal with it for 2 days.
Suck it up for 2 days, you know, and then just do these like couple of things that like make it somewhat special, and then you never have to think about it again.
That's true. That's fair. That's fair. But like, yeah, I think you're right, and I think it would be even worse than that. I don't think he would ever say, "Oh no, we're done. We don't need this ceremony anymore." He would just be like, "We're not."
Right.
It would be that same thing that people do with kids, like waiting. When are you going to be ready? Well, I'm not. I don't know, but it's not yet, and it's not yet, and it's not yet, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now it's too late. Right? So it's that one of those things. It would do the same thing. When are we going to have our ceremony? Well, I need a little bit of more money. Maybe we'll do this. We have to wait till we have this much. And all of a sudden it's like, it would be weird to have a ceremony 5 years after we got married for real. Like, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess
so
we're
I guess
just
we're
not
just not
having
having
it
it
now. Yeah. But yes, I could definitely see him being like, oh, well, we can start planning once I get a raise. Right? Because who knows when that's going to be, right? And then once you get a raise, oh, well, we still need to save up like, you know, $10,000. Well, who knows when that's going to, you know, how long that's going to take, especially with, you know, unexpected expenses coming up. So I can definitely see him doing that, where he will say that, you know, these plans are in motion just to keep her happy, but there's always
going to be
an
something else.
excuse,
There's always going to be something else. That's a reason we can't do it now. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but what frustrates me is, you know, he's just not interested in making any day special. He's not interested in making like, you know, a future ceremony special, like this 2-day prep thing special. He really doesn't care.
Want anything. Like in terms of, I mean, besides apparently sex, like that's all I can get. That's all I can ascertain of something that he was like, what do you want from your relationship in the future? He's like, well, I know what I want to do with Julia, and that's ever that. It's like, you know, whatever. Keep going.
He is definitely falling in my rankings for the season. I think the other thing that really annoys me, that I think his parents know him well, and they always said this at the beginning, and I think I didn't really like get what they were saying, but Ron kept on saying like Brandon's never serious. And it's just like, it is. He jokes about freaking everything is a joke to him, and a dad joke at that. It's like he can't be serious about anything. And it's super annoying when it's like, okay, these are like serious conversations you need to be having, and he keeps on making a joke out of it. And the thing is like, okay, fine. Maybe make a quick joke at the beginning to lighten the mood. I get that, but he freaking won't let it go.
Yeah, no, he does respond to everything with a, oh, this is... And yeah, it just kind of tries to deflect it with humor. Like, oh, yeah, well, that's my joke. And then it's like, well... What about like the actual question? He was like, "Oh, we were still talking about that." He just
won't let go of the joke. Yeah.
I thought I had
that annoys
successfully
me so
deflected
much.
away from that. I mean, at the end of the day, he's just a guy that doesn't know what he wants, but is also just trying to keep everybody else happy. And so, like, that's a way to do that is to deflect with a joke, is to be like, well, let me just like try. All I'm trying to do is grease wheels. Like, I don't know where the car's going, but I want to keep all the wheels greased. Like, and that's all he's doing, which is super frustrating to deal with. Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's also someone who shouldn't be someone who's responsible for anyone else.
That's true. That's true.
And you're trying to be responsible for someone who you are sponsoring.
Especially when it's something like I get if you're like, I don't want to make a decision, but it's like, okay, like you have to, like, he's the kind of guy that wouldn't make a dentist appointment for himself, right? Like, sorry, there's some things you just gotta suck it up and just do. Like, you know, that's what came to the wedding too. Well, I'm not interested. Dentists bore me. It's like, yeah, they do, but guess what? You still got to make your dentist appointment.
Dentists aren't me. Don't make me be someone I don't want to be.
I'm not the kind of guy that likes making dental appointments.
Well, then, are you the kind of guy who wants rotting teeth? Good luck with that. All right, let's move on to Natalie and Mike. So Natalie is taking pictures and videos of herself as Tamara and a leather-vested Beau are packing Tamara's car. The plan is that Tamara and Natalie are going to drive to the airport and they'll stay at a hotel nearby overnight before Natalie takes a flight to Paris. Mike has bought her the ticket, and from France, she will figure it out. Natalie doesn't want to tell her mom because she doesn't want her mom to worry, especially because she's not quite sure what her plan is. Natalie is feeling like she has no options because Mike didn't give her any time to plan or think things through. Natalie apologizes to Beau as they are saying goodbye, saying she's so sorry for being scared of him because he really is a nice man. He tells her to keep in touch, and Natalie just point blank says, nope, she can't. Beau then tells her to have a nice life as we see Mike standing at the door walking towards her, crying and saying he's sorry. Natalie says she doesn't know what to say as she walks away from him and gets into the car. Mike goes to the car and continues to say he's sorry. Natalie says she doesn't understand what he's sorry about, but thanks a lot for making her travel during coronavirus. He says he's just sorry about everything. Natalie wishes that he will find an American girl and be happy, but she won't be contacting him ever again. Natalie says she'll be blocking him and wishes him all the best as she closes the door. Natalie thinks Michael is weak and his actions are weak. She says everything is his choice, and she is scared to leave in these conditions with no home to go to. Tamara attempts to talk to her on their car ride. At one point, Natalie asks Tamara if she knows which hotel they're staying at. This is when they all find out that they need to get Mike's credit card from him, so they have to drive all the way back to the house. Mike hands Tamara the credit card, and Natalie asks if she can just drive. But Tamara just stays there. Mike then is hanging in the window and asks for the ring. And Natalie says he's the one who called it off, so she thinks that she deserves the ring and she just doesn't want to give it back to him. Tamara's just awkwardly, physically in the middle of both of them as they talk about who should have the ring. Natalie says she wants it as a reminder of the pain and suffering she has gone through. Mike then asks to talk to her, and he says that he just wants to say goodbye and begs for a hug. Natalie asks why he's doing this to her, and she cries, starts sobbing actually really loudly, and asks Tamara to leave. Tamara hesitates, but eventually she turns on the car, and they are back on the road. Tamara tries to defend Mike, saying he just wanted a hug, and Natalie says, fuck him, as she sobs. Okay, so I don't know what the hell is going on. Why did Mike try to call things off if he's acting like he's regretting it now?
Yeah,
I feel like the hug.
Yeah, no, the hug.
You know, all
he
of this,
came out
I'm
like with tears in his eyes. Like, fuck you, dude. You don't get to cry.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, bud. No.
Right.
I was definitely on the fuck him with Natalie. Because, yeah, I still care so much about you. No, you fucking don't. Get the fuck out of here.
No,
like,
you don't.
If you do, you're terrible at it. And, like, I don't want any part of you. Like, that's...
Well, here's the thing. If he really does still care about her, you know, like, he has to just suck it up. And it's like, to him, I feel like he wants to feel better, and he would feel better if Natalie didn't, like, so obviously hate him. And so by trying to get that hug from her, it's kind of like, okay, she doesn't hate me, and I'm not a terrible person.
I mean, that's the reassurance he's looking for, is I'm not a terrible person for doing what I did. And I am all on Natalie for, like, I'm not giving that to you. I think you are a terrible person. Like,
right. Yes. And it's kind of like, and then the hug is going to make you feel better, but is it going to make Natalie feel better?
Not.
Absolutely not, because it's not like you want anything different. Yeah. So, yeah, like, why are you going to put someone else through that? I agree with Natalie.
Yeah, no, totally. I don't understand this credit card situation. Like, Do they need it because like they need the card that made the reservation?
Yeah, so, okay, it sounded like that Mike had made the reservation on his card, and they were going to have to show the card when they go to check in. But if you saw the preview, it ends up that even that isn't enough. Like, they need the card holder to actually be
wrong.
there.
There has to be a way to make a reservation for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean... Quite honestly, there are a couple things that, I mean, in my experience with something like that, I would probably just put the other person on the room, and then you would have to have a card for incidentals, but someone like Tamara could just, you know, right, because it's not like anything's being charged to her card. So, I mean, they could have worked around it, but I know it must be difficult for Natalie because, I mean, this whole season, she hasn't, I don't think she set up any kind of bank account or anything that she can use over here.
Yeah, then that's, I'm going to say that's on her because she was relying on Mike, but I don't know if she could, right? I don't know if she could.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. It just seemed like the whole way it went down, especially looking at the preview when they won't take his card, like, we have to go back. Like, it just really, did he really forget to give them the card? Or did he, like, kind of keep the card, hoping that they would realize halfway down, like, oh, I guess you have to come back for the card. Like,
yeah. I couldn't believe that they made it all the way back. Like, I thought that he was, you know, following them or something, and that they just have to pull off.
That's another good point, too. You forget the credit card and have to drive back. He didn't meet them halfway? God, what an asshole.
Yeah. At that point, it's just kind of like, give her
cash. Yeah, I know. At some point, just give her cash. Like, I thought he was at the bank. He came back from the bank before she left. He should have just given her cash for the hotel room. Forget about all this credit card stuff.
He really, really should have.
Like, I don't know. I missed Bo, like, saying, stay in touch. I thought she just out of nowhere was like, I will not be keeping in touch with you. Like, damn, Natalie, that's cool.
Nope.
Just so you know.
I know, Natalie. Wow. Oh, he seems like a really sweet guy, and so I thought it was very nice of Natalie to admit that she was wrong. Like, I had this impression of you that you're kind of a scary dude, and you're actually a really nice guy.
Right. So can I say this? Isn't this the whole purpose? Wasn't that like the whole development of an engagement ring for exactly this purpose? Like a deposit in case the guy bailed on the wedding, that you would be like, well, at least you have this ring you can sell.
Oh my gosh. I mean, okay, so that's a good question. So you think Natalie's entitled to the ring?
I think she's totally entitled to the ring.
I think she's entitled to the ring too. And quite honestly, like, we've seen the ring, and like, how much is she really going to pawn that off
It's not even an impressive ring.
No, like what, a couple $100s?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. I don't know if it's diamond or not, right? But even if it is,
well, if it is a diamond, it was a very tiny
less
diamond.
than a half carat. It's not even like so it is like a couple $100 ring. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a principle. It's not like she's going to be able to be like, well, I can finance my life for a couple months while I'm getting myself together by selling his ring. Like, no, that's not happening.
Right. Maybe she can get a hotel room for that.
Right. Maybe that's how she get the hotel room.
Yeah, at that point, just pawn it, and just that's how you can get your hotel room. But, in a weird way, I kind of feel like all of these things seem very suspicious to me. Like, there are ways to kind of, like, it's like they're both playing chicken, like, who's gonna, cave first. And so they're trying to give each other all these opportunities to, be like, okay, well, you call it off. Well, you call it off. Well, no, you call it off, okay, you. And so I kind of feel like Mike, like with the credit card and like the ring, and like he's trying to create opportunities for her to like,
for her to have to come back and have to talk to him again. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very sketchy.
Right.
And like, I don't know. I get her impulse of being like, I need to get the fuck out of here as soon as I can.
Right. And freaking Tamara is just like, just sitting there. Just like,
well, because Mike was like,
you're driving the freaking getaway car, so get away. Honestly, I am a ride or die. Like, if
roll
that
up the
had been
window.
me and I had been Team Natalie, yep, I would have been rolling up the window, hinting by, like, turning on the car. Because as soon as she turned on the car,
he
he
backed
like,
up.
got out the window. But it's like, Tamara, she needed to, like, make an effort to look like she was trying to leave. And she didn't.
Like,
she was just sitting there like an idiot.
Like, because they weren't doing it. Just was very clear that he was just going to sit at that window and stare at her until she responded. He's like, this is awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it got even more awkward because it's like Natalie knew that he was going to do that. So it's like, so she just decides to start bawling and wailing like
yes.
dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh gosh. So, it's like, oh, now you're making me uncomfortable. I know the goal was to make Mike uncomfortable, so he backs up, but it's like, it's making me as the viewer.
I gotta say, especially compared to the one I'm going to talk about next, Natalie being that broken up and still like running her camera phone and keeping, things in frame was reasonably good. Like her framing of filming that whole thing with her phone while she's crying and doing this whole thing with Mike. So like I said, though, two people that sucked at camera phone work were Rebecca and Zied. So Rebecca and Zied are getting ready for their last minute wedding. Zied talks in a car. They're on the store about his jacket, which is bright red, as he says, and his shoes, which are blue, that he's wearing at his wedding. They make their way to a Target to find pants for Zied, and Rebecca is even more stressed that he just can't do any of this for herself, and she has to come with and help him out. So they're filming with their phones, and they are extremely shaky and seem to be holding them at their crotch level for some reason, like just staring up at their faces.
Oh gosh, I realized Rebecca has really uneven nostrils.
Well, you would because her camera was shooting up her nose the whole time. Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. One of her nostrils is like 2 times the size
so
of
I just
the
saw
other one.
like
it's crazy.
it was so much of the ceiling of that Target. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's getting really angry about this whole process, and at this point, once Rebecca gets angry, Zied knows all I can do is sit and watch. That's it. So they pick out the pants, which he wants to be tight and tapered, of course. But they can't try them on because the fitting rooms are closed because of COVID. Which, by the way, this was a public Target. They did not shut this all the way down, and they were very maskless. But Rebecca thinks, by telling the lady at the Target, like, well, we're getting married soon, though, that'll convince her to open up the rooms. But they don't. Anyway, so on the way home, they start to talk about Zied's sister, Wiam, and how does she know about the wedding yet? Because apparently Zied told the rest of his family, but he wanted to tell her himself. So after they leave, he calls to tell her. Wiam is still very upset at Zied for leaving Tunisia. And so she doesn't react really all that thrilled about the news. She mostly just kind of wants to keep talking to him about, like, why did you leave us? Why did you leave Tunisia? And she doesn't have much to say than basically, whatever, it's your decision. Fine. Good luck, I guess. So then there's only one day left to get married. And Rebecca is complaining about not having a wedding cake and how none of this is normal because of COVID. And there's also this whole time when they're driving to the resort, there's an unexplained dog crate in the back seat. I was very confused. Zied is bummed that it's the day before marrying the woman he loves, and it just seems like everybody is upset. Right? They get to the resort where the wedding's going to be, and, Rebecca is listing all the things that are wrong. Her dress doesn't fit, she lost her engagement ring, and basically nobody is coming, including one of her children, because of the pandemic. But her friend Melanie is there, and they have to come up with a game plan for getting her too small dress to fit. Rebecca and Melanie sit to talk, and Rebecca's very stressed because she feels like everything in her life is out of control right now. Between work, keeping Zied happy, and unsuccessfully trying to plan this wedding. Melanie gives her some perspective. You're marrying during COVID with a 90-day visa. You might not get the wedding you want, but you're going to get the man that you want. So, so do you think that Melanie is going to be able to calm Rebecca down to a tolerable level where she's not? I feel like right now she was just ran out of control, stressed.
I know. God, I hope so. Like, I felt so bad for Zied because Rebecca has been such a pain in the ass the last couple episodes. Like, just, it's like I feel like she feels like she has all the control. right? I'm the one deciding if you're the shady dude that maybe I should want to spend the rest of my life with. But it's like, you're not really putting on your best self version for Zied either. Like, if I were Zied, I'd be like, I don't want a lifetime of dealing with this lady. She takes it for granted that he wants
to be with her no matter what. She's like, well, I'm not sure that I want to do this yet. And she's like, she just totally takes it for granted. Maybe he is getting second thoughts. Like, maybe?
Right. I wouldn't want to date, or I wouldn't want to be married to cranky pants Miss Sourpuss, because that's how she's been acting. Could you actually?
I don't know if he says it, but with somebody who was openly like you know, a situation where you're engaged with somebody and they openly tell you, I'm trying to decide if I really want to be with you. Like, that's terrible.
Yeah, she's just really short with him and like condescending. She treated him like a child when they were in Target. You know, like, well, what about these pants? It was like a mom shopping with her son.
Right, and it wasn't because, you know, she gets the impression, but there's still a lot of the language things going on. He goes in the Target. He's a little bit confused about what's going on. And he is kind of confusing to talk to because he does that thing where he pretends like he understands when he doesn't. So you're like, okay, so we'll go for him. He's like, yes, good. And then you're like, well, do you, here they are. Are these ones good? Like, and he's like, blue, yes. And you're like, what? I don't understand. What are you saying? Like, I get that is very frustrating, but her automatic response to that is to go into mom mode.
Yeah. I don't know if red jackets are the best choice. It reminds me of like a museum docent or something.
Or like the guy from Hotels, like Captain Obvious. Like,
yes.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like, I don't know what you would even match a red, but when I think of red with navy pants, that's I could totally what I think of. I think of museum
or like
docents.
A concierge. Like somebody that you have to go to the hotel lobby and be like, oh yes, that guy dressed obnoxiously. That's who we talk to. Like, because they have to sit out. But the docent is the same way, right? It's somebody you walk into a crowded museum and you'd be like, there's someone who they're talking about. Like, they stand out.
Right. But I don't know if there's any way of salvaging, like, because the problem is that they're stuck with the red suit jacket. He's very insistent on this red suit jacket, and that's what's kind of messing everything up.
If it doesn't match the pants, it's a blazer, right? Or at least that's the way I always interpret it. A suit jacket is if it's a suit jacket, then your pants would be with the same material and fabric as the jacket, right? And you just have a red suit.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be quite as he described, because I don't think he understood what she was saying when she said bright red. Like, I don't think it's going to be a fire engine red, like, suit jacket.
I don't know. That's what I'm picking.
I think it's going to be something that's a little more muted, and he just didn't understand when she was like, "You mean like bright red?" He was like, yes.
That's true. We've talked about how even. I think what we were talking about, Russian has different colors than we do.
Russia has a lot of more colors of blue, which makes the people who speak Russian better able to differentiate between shades of blue.
Yeah, so maybe he just knows the basic colors, so red could really be
and
anything.
Red is usually the one that is introduced, like, to the languages first. It's a whole thing. I read a book about it. It was interesting.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I'm hoping, what could be the best from that situation is maybe, like, almost like a brown maroon.
Yeah. Like, it's got to be really dark. Definitely, like, very muted.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like Rebecca could be, and you know, it is one thing to just tell somebody just stop, but so much of it is like that thing. She's like, I'm so stressed about this. I don't have a wedding cake. Just be like, you know what? You don't need a wedding cake. Let it go. Just let it go.
Right.
Like, so much of it is just let it go, Rebecca. Just let it go. Like, because I don't know who she's putting the show on for at this point.
Right, because there's like, 5 people that are there? Like, they're not going to, and they're your closest friends. They're not going to care if you don't have cake.
Right.
Or at least a fancy one. You can go out and, like, buy dessert, but...
So get some cupcakes, that's fine. But, like, if you can't physically get the dress on, that might be a little bit of an issue.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day. It's one of those things that just... And everybody's had those situations in their life when it's something that completely takes over, and as soon as it's done, you're like, that didn't matter at all. Like, why was I so stressed about that?
Right. Okay, so let's talk Tarik and Hazel. So it's 2 days before the wedding, and they're trying to get Ari, Tarik's daughter, to try on the dress that she's going to wear for the wedding. Tarik tells us that things have magically gotten great ever since their conversation a week ago. Hazel says she feels happy about their future together. Hazel wants to tell her family now that she's bisexual, and she wants her family to see who she really is. She reminds us that her family is very religious and they do not like bisexual or gay people. Hazel has a bisexual sister that came out and her parents were very angry, so she's afraid to tell her family. She video calls her family and tells them that she misses them. Hazel thinks now is the right time, even though she's scared. Hazel asks them if, they would be angry if she happened to, like women and men. And she said it at first in a very hypothetical way. Her dad says, oh no. And her mom says it will be unacceptable and they just need to pray the gay away. She says that this is her, and her dad says that, he'll be happy if she's happy. And her mom just doesn't accept it. But, she's pretty happy about how that conversation went, even if she knows her mom isn't 100% on board. It's now the day before the wedding, and Hazel is having a bachelorette party with Tarik's friends Angela, Kia, and her friend Michelle at a hotel. They assure us that everyone has gotten COVID tested at this point. Hazel makes a beeline to the entrance, and Tarik calls her back to give her a kiss and to give her the wedding dress. Tarik isn't going to have a bachelor party, but he wants Hazel to enjoy her party, so he has a surprise planned for her. Angela is happy to see that things have been better between Tarik and Hazel after the weird fight from the last episode and last week, which Angela was witnessing. In the middle of their conversation, Danielle, a dancer, knocks on the door and immediately, walks in and starts twerking. Hazel thinks she's a very good dancer. Hazel thinks this dancer is exactly who she's looking for in a girlfriend because, there was a lot of, as Hazel put it, but. Oh. Hazel feels so thankful that she's met Tarik and she's never been happier in her life. All right, why do you think that Hazel got a bachelorette but Tarik doesn't get a bachelorette?
Well, Tarik's been married before, right? I don't know if he was married to Ari's mom or not.
I don't know. But yeah, I forget.
I just feel like, and if that's the case, I could see him not wanting a bachelor party, and I could see them just I really see this as a production push. Well, somebody's got to have a party. All right, somebody's got to have a party, and it makes more sense to give it to Hazel, I guess, because we've seen other women, and then we could have this stripper here, right?
Right. I feel like also that Tarik would not be mad at Hazel for having a bachelorette party, but Hazel would be mad at Tarik for having a bachelor party.
I can't. If that same stripper was at Tarik's party, there'd be problems. I mean, not as many problems as it was at Ty's stripper, but
yeah, I was gonna say.
But that's a. But
that's kind of nice knowing what Hazel's into.
It is,
then.
and I thought it was really cute when the producer was like, "Oh, did Tarik pick a good one?" And she was like, "What?" And they were like, "Tarik picked that," and she was like, "Really? He did?
He did?"
Tarik picked the stripper, and he's
she
like,
was so excited.
Really? My favorite part of the but was how they added "use" to the captions as she said it.
Yes, in the captions. Yeah, that was impressive dancing. Well, just. And it's not even just the dancing is impressive. It was you gotta have a butt for that.
I mean, there's certain things that looked more impressive when the lady with the butt did it, and but she had some nice balance. There was upside down things going on. Yeah. That's tough. It's tough.
It's like a regular Cardi B all up in there.
So I was confused why this was the time she picked to tell her parents, right before I get married to a man, I'd like to tell you that, by the way, I'm also attracted to women. It seems like that's the least relevant time for that to come up.
Well, and I was also confused why they weren't even talking about the wedding at all. It's she called them to talk about that, but it's you also have a other major life event happening in a couple days, presumably.
And it was two old people on the phone, so I'm not even sure whenever that happens. Old people on Skype or on Zoom at the beginning of the pandemic are like, "What? Huh? What did she say? She said what? Huh?" And
I think they kind of got it, but
a lot of "huh? What? like yelling into the phone.
Yeah.
They eventually got it, but it was one of those things that like she kind of came out of nowhere with it, and they were like only half paying attention.
Yeah, definitely came out of nowhere, it seemed like. Because even her dad's original reaction, I thought the dad was going to have a bad reaction and the mom was going to be okay with it. Because he was like, oh no. But it was very like monotone. Like you couldn't really tell, like, you mean like, oh like, no. Or like, oh no.
Sure. I mean, I guess, and the other thing too is, again, we keep making this distinction. She told them two, let's say, non-traditional like sexual preferences at once. Right. One is, being bi, and the other one is I'm going to have a girlfriend with my new husband. Like, I wonder if the mom was like, hey, mom, we have this situation and I'm not going to get married to this guy, but I'm going to continue to date other guys. I don't think the mom would be okay with that either.
No, that's
and
true.
So I don't know which part of it upset the mom more. The part where it's like, I'm going to have this, continue to date people after I'm married, or if it was the fact that she was going to continue to date women after she was married.
Yeah. I mean, and I think also a little bit, and it depends on the culture as well, but I feel like a lot of parents are disappointed, and not because they're disappointed in their child, but it's like they think about how hard of a life they're going to have. Right. And so like that is also part of it, is like just concern for their kids.
That is a difficult path you're going down, but it's like, it's not really, obviously not a choice, but.
Right. But I mean, her saying like, I'll pray for you, that also could be, because it's like, oh, I think your life is going to be hard.
I'll pray that your well-being more than I'll pray that you'll stop being gay. Right.
But I do think she definitely had the, we're going to pray the gay away.
There was some of that for sure. For sure. All right. So that leaves us with Andrew and Amira. So we saw in the last episode, Amira didn't get on the plane from Serbia. She texted Andrew and said that that she had a panic attack, so she didn't get on the plane. And we hear this from Andrew, who says that he blew it and he fucked up. So then we go back 24 hours earlier, and Amira is in her hotel room in Serbia crying uncontrollably. She says that Andrew called her the night they fought all night, so hey, we called it, about their relationship and their children. She says he yelled at her and sent her mean text messages right before sending her a ticket to Paris and saying, quote, "You have 2 tickets, 2 choices. Do what you want. I don't care. And the children at the daycare are better team players." At that point, we quickly see a shot of Amira's phone. So, of course, I paused it to share the other choice text.
Oh, I did too.
Such as, you've been given a lot more rope to hang yourself with. You shoot yourself in the foot. And if you've got any talking to do, I strongly suggest you engage me now. My time is limited. And my favorite one, it's been 30 minutes from my initial offer to help, but I have 60 more seconds in me, followed by a countdown. Okay. Oh my
so
God.
Disgusting.
I paused it and was angry. Okay. So
I did too.
Amira has taken the end of this conversation as an indication that what Andrew wants for her now is to go back to France. But she still goes to the airport to get on the flight to the U.S. She says when she was at the gate, she called Andrew and they talked, and he was like, okay, fine, but when you get here, I'm going to be an angry fiance. And that was the point when she called her dad, and who told her, you should listen to what your heart is telling you to do here. So she takes her panic attack because she was fearing what was going to happen when she got to the United States as a good sign that she probably shouldn't go to the United States. So when she told him she didn't get on the plane, we see Andrew's reaction on a text, which was, "Can you please send the rings back?" So at this point, Amira says it's over. So, wow. What's the worst thing he said? Let's go with that.
Oh, gosh. I think just the whole text message, and that was the worst part. And I do think it's kind of funny because, we're not the only ones who paused to see what he had written, And so I just kind of find it interesting that he is trying to play up like he's this good guy and that he's providing everything for
I just
Amira.
want what's best for her, and I just love her so much that we need to bring her to the United States so that we can have our general good time together.
I am such a failure. She did not get on the flight. It's like, it kind of sounds like your goal was to get her not to come.
You sent her another ticket to France, and then are like, I can't believe I feel like I've let her down and failed her. Like, I don't think that was it.
That is so ridiculous to me. If he really had wanted her to be there, why is he giving her an option in the first place?
I don't know. It's like it's just so. I mean, it's just so extreme. Like to deal with that, and it's just to have to deal with. Hey, instead of hearing somebody listen to your concerns and kind of try to assuade them or make you feel better about them, like, well, fuck you. Here's another ticket back, asshole. If you want to do that, why don't you come to me? Like it's just crazy that like that. I didn't understand his reaction.
Yeah.
Like, and then when she did say, "Hey, I'm actually going to get on the plane," he was like, "Well, I'm still pissed." Like,
right. Why would you even want that? And it's like, did the message from yesterday sink in at all? The one that said that she wasn't sure she wanted you to be the father of her children if you couldn't keep your shit together and not be this angry asshole. Oh, okay. And it's just like, he was like, what? Children is dependent on my behavior? And it's like, okay. And then you're going to go from that to acting like a total asshole?
Like, that's always been so our suspicion, right? Has been that this guy off camera is a completely different dude than he is on camera.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think it's like completely different. I think he's the same. It's just, he's hiding how terrible he really is.
I guess that's true. He's putting on an act on camera is what I was trying to say.
Yes.
But like, man, I mean, and the mystery to me still remains is why has Amira put up with this for so long?
I have no idea. That is the question, I feel like. Like, why has she? Like, and then I was thinking, too, she went to the airport and she was at the gate. And, it was at the gate that she decided that she would... Her luggage is now in L.A. or wherever, I'm sorry, California. So it's like, oh, that's like a logistic nightmare in itself. You have to somehow get your luggage back.
You didn't get on the plane after your luggage was? Yeah, that's tough. But I mean, it's not as tough as having to live in California with Andrew. Like, because I mean, it wasn't going to stop. And I kind of feel like that's what it came down to. Is I feel like if she was like, oh, this is really hard, but once he gets what he wants, it'll stop and it'll get better. And it was like, and this is when she was kind of realizing, oh no, I'll never be able to give him everything he wants because there's always going to be something else that he wants. And like, especially when he brought up, as soon as she's coming, this thing that he fought for, this will be it, baby. This is the end. This is everything we've been waiting for. So when we having kids, that was another thing. It was like, oh, so there's going to be something else he wants. And then there's going to be something else he wants.
Yeah. He scares me. And I think I had said this from the beginning too. Like, he just gets vibes that that's the guy that flips a switch about like, getting angry super quickly and going from 0 to 90. And you're just like, oh my God.
I mean, he definitely seems like the guy who like when, you start, I feel like when you start talking to him, like with even just through texts, like, and you miss a text or you had to go to work and so you didn't answer it for for a half a day or a day, and he's just like, fine, I didn't like you anyway. Like, glad, I guess we're done talking. Okay.
Oh gosh, this guy really seriously deserves to be alone until he can fix himself.
I mean, he needs a tremendous amount of work because nobody deserves to have to put up with that.
Yeah, definitely not. Okay, so I think we've covered all the couples.
That's all of them.
And we saw everyone this week.
Yeah, it was. When we're getting down to it, there can only be a few episodes left, right?
Right, because I think Happily Ever After starts on episode 17.
So we're looking at like 2 more episodes and a tell-all, maybe? Something like that?
Yeah. We're definitely getting down to next week. There should be weddings.
That's what it looks like. What it looks like. All right.
Yeah. At least half of them. All right, so who was your student of the week?
Tarik, for, being a partner that, does something and picks something based on what his partner wants. Like, he clearly knew that, like,
like a dancer.
I mean, it was a pretty layup one. Like, hey, maybe she likes girls. Let's get a girl. What do I want her to look like? It's not like she hasn't been telling me repeatedly exactly what the kind of girl she wants looks like. So here we go.
Right.
But, listening and
I wonder if he was going for a female version of himself.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I think he was going for what she said. She's like, I want a girl. I want her to have brown skin. I want her to be curvy. Like she says that repeatedly to him.
Oh, yeah. True. All right. So my student of the week, I put Zied just because Rebecca was so terrible. It's like, oh my gosh, he's putting up with a lot.
He was like, and at some point he was like, yeah, there's nothing I can do. I just gotta wait it out.
Yeah. All right, Dunce.
I mean, so I feel like I already used up my quota for saying Andrew this year.
Yeah.
So I went with Stephanie.
Okay.
Just because, like, what is it? I'm just gonna throw money. Like it's so weird the way she just throws money at people as they're going away. It's gross. I mean, it definitely like gives off the vibes that this is some sort of like prostitution thing going on.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for coming and hooking up with me. Here's a $3,000 watch and $100 bill, and so much. And like it's just like it's icky, and I don't like it. So I say Stephanie.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, it is kind of All right, my dunce was Andrew because I think as much as he's trying to hide it, also like idiot, you're going to put that stuff in text message. You think that's not going to
come up. Yeah.
Going to be evidence that comes out. I mean, the private phone conversations, I think that very much could be like hearsay, but that's like text message.
Yeah.
Like,
well, she's not very good at reiterating. She's like, he said very mean things to me.
Yeah.
Just that were very mean, instead of like, where you're like, okay, well, that's up to interpretation. But when you see them in the text message, you're like, nope, those are super mean.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible. You're just, even the tone he has with her, it's like, just, so gross. Yeah. So Andrew.
Yeah. So my life lesson is at Andrew, and it's basically like, if you feel like you want to say any of the things he said to her, then you need to reconsider whether you're really in love with that person. Mm-hmm. Because because if you want to do that, if you want that for them like that, I don't think you do.
Yeah, and if you really like still want to say that to that person, maybe you're just a terrible person.
Yes. Which, I mean, he ends up saying, but he says it like, like I'm like the mom guilt trip. I'm a terrible mother. Like, no, you're not, Mom. We love you. Like, he's like, I guess I'm just, I failed. Like, feel bad for me because I failed. It's like, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I failed at being a good person.
Right.
My life lesson is actually inspired by Natalie and Mike, and I kind of alluded to this a little bit before, but during or after a breakup, especially if you were the one who's doing the dumping, don't do things that make you feel better, like reaching out or trying to get one last hug, because that doesn't always make your ex-partner feel better. And then, like, I kind of feel like you have to ask yourself this question. Is it moving you closer to moving on or hanging on? And that should be your measure of if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I definitely felt the, you have to ask, is this what they would want? Is it better for them? And of course, I'm sure he convinced himself that it was. Like, it is better that she gets some closure on this. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to record our classic episode pretty soon here, but I don't want to commit to a Monday release date.
It'll be out when it's out. Yeah.
Yeah. But we are starting before the 90 days, so if you want to watch
before the 90 days season 1, this week we'll be covering episodes 1 and 2. Next week is episodes 3 and 4. And apparently you can only watch it on Hulu and Discovery Plus.
Yes, as I found out yesterday, because I have neither of those things. And I was like, how do I watch this? So, I signed up for a free trial of Hulu because I'm like, how am I going to do this? But it works out because Handmaid's Tale starts next month. And I would have to figure out how to get my Hulu access then, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So we will see everybody later this week, and then again here next week for the original episode.
Okay. Sounds good. See you then.
All right. Okay.
Bye.